Hi guys, and welcome back to Together We'll Journey. My name is Jeanette, and in today's episode I'm going to talk about planning on how to plan a garden. So I was talking to a friend of mine. I said it's super hot here. It's going to reach 42 degrees again this week, this weekend. What can I do? Like, what's there to do in the middle of the heat? And my friend Kira Lee turned around and said to me, "Why don't you do a show on how to plan a garden?" So that is what today is about. So credit to Kira Lee, and today's show we're going to talk about how I plan a garden and the steps that I take in order to either plan a raised bed or something bigger, like dividing my garden into zones. So stay tuned. Right, so how do you plan a garden? What are the most simplest way to plan a garden? I personally like to use the four elements: earth, water, fire, and air. Four elements that Mother Earth already has. So let's not complicate things, and let's just keep it simple, right? So your garden should have each one of those four elements, and you're probably thinking, huh? Right, so let's begin with water. The most important part of a garden is how you're going to get water to your plants. So if you have um, like a low maintenance garden, you can probably survive here in Australia on those specific watering days that we have here in Oz. If you don't have a low maintenance garden, then you're going to have to find a way of getting water to that garden. Now, whether or not you do a wicking bed for your fruits and vegetables, or you do what everyone else pretty much now does in Australia is get a rainwater tank, and specifically, you can get one specifically for your garden, and therefore you won't be fined by the council or the shires if you water the garden out of the 2 days that have been allocated in the summer. So our summer here in WA, if you haven't already guessed, is bloody hot. So with that comes drought, with that comes heat and everything like that. So you need to make sure that the water is able to get to the plants. Otherwise, you're just going to waste your money and you're going to lose all your plants, right? So water is number one, and how you're going to get the water to that plant and how you're going to water it out of the cycle of your watering days. So that's number one. So you want to look at that. So there's your water element. Okay, let's try and have there's more to it. When I plan my water element, there's more to it than just how I'm going to get water there. There's also what plants I'm going to mix together and combine that's going to help with the other plants. And I'll get to that a little bit further down the track, and it's mainly called companion planting. But let's go to the next element, earth. In the previous video I did last week, I spoke about preparing your garden bed. This is a great time to get the poop in there, the compost, good soil, and start generating some good soil for your garden. You can even, if you really want to, you can actually plant green manure. And what that is like seeds that you can plant in the garden there. That's going to help cover the soil and keep it nutrient dense. And that's what you want to look for, right? You want the garden to be able to give the nutrients to the plants that you're going to put in there. There are soil testers you can get from Bunnings if you are a bit concerned that, for example, I believe a mango tree doesn't like or does like potassium. I have to look at that one. So you need to find that, you know, that medium, that kind of soil that's going to be good for that particular plant. So this is where preparation comes in so much, and how planning comes in. So if you have part of a garden that wants to be, say, a fruit garden, or you want that part of the garden to be flowery, or you want that part of the garden to be bush-like, it's up to you. It's your garden, right? But you need to make plans on how to do this. And so with your earth as well, once you figure out what you want to put there, whether it's you want to put natives or you want to put um, fruit trees or whatever, you have to prepare the soil for that. All right, it's very simple. Next is air. Plants don't like being stuck together. They really don't. So you've got to make sure that they have enough room to be able to grow and the air circulate through it. Also with air, and I can go further and further into this as well, is how you're going to mix some nitrogen producing plants in your area of that garden as well. So you need to do your research on like what kind of nitrogen producing plants you can stick in there for that garden. Another one as well, and we'll go into it very briefly, is companion planting. Why is this important? So when you're doing a fruit bed, and there's a book called Carrots Love Tomatoes. There's a reason why that book's called like that, and I'll put a picture of it up here. So basically, this book tells you what plants go well with each other and what plants don't. Because when you plant certain fruits and vegetables in your garden, you want them to flourish. You want to get as much as you can out of that, right? Tomatoes, they're somewhat cheap from Coles and Woolies, but it's not as cheap as the amount that you can produce yourself and that you can potentially give to family or friends or take it down to your local restaurant, whatever. It doesn't matter. What does matter is how you're going to get a production that's going to be fruitful for you. For example, tomatoes, obviously you're going to want to plant carrots there because carrots loves tomatoes. So, but you also want to get marigolds there because you know before the tomato fruits they have like these little flowers. So you bring marigolds in and you can then get the awesome little bees to come in and pollinate your tomato plant, and you hopefully get so much more tomatoes than you would ever dream of. So get the most out of your production by doing companion planting and allow your fruits to flourish, fruits and vegetables to flourish. Definitely companion planting there. And the next one is fire. And you're probably thinking, what is fire? This is the stuff that you want to put onto your garden as well, like charcoal. This is how I describe it, but I'd actually dive more into it when I do my my planning of my garden. But it's also zoning as well. I threw zoning in there as well because it's important to zone your garden as well if you want the most production. And when I mean zoning, I'm not just talking about like zone 1, zone 2, because that will help with your water reticulation as well. Because certain plants need more water, certain plants don't need more water. So zoning them out, it's like this is a wet zone, they're going to have different sprinkler heads. This is a low maintenance zone, they're going to have different sprinkler heads because they don't need as much water. They still need water, but not so much, right? So when you're doing like certain planning as well, especially of a veggie patch, you can actually divide your veggie patch like I don't know 30 cm square boxes, and then that's what I had done previously. I marked out with string 30 cm pretty much square boxes. And in that 30 cm, I planted as much as possible without overcrowding it, right? So this is where that air thing comes in. Don't overcrowd your fruits and vegetables because they will not like it. They like a bit of space. So if you do, like, for example, let me draw it out for you. Okay, so for example, you have a rectangular kind of flower bed, right? And in there, you've decided to divide this flower bed like so. Oh, there goes my watch. And like so. Whoops. This is very rough sketch, guys. So here, you may want to plant, I don't know, say tomatoes. And in this plant here, you might want to plant, I don't know, let's say carrots. And then here you might want to grow spinach. I don't know, give me something else. Let's put cabbage here because cabbage doesn't like to be next to tomatoes. And then over here, you might want to plant, I don't know, let's say capsicum. Right. What I do here, because I want to bring in natural pollination into my garden, meaning I want to bring in the beneficial insects. So here I might put down a herb that flowers. I put a flower or another herb that flowers and another flower and a herb here, because some herbs are great with cabbages, some flowers are great for cabbage, capsicum, and spinach, and either way they're all going to bring it in. And here you might want to bring put strawberries here, maybe you want to put something else there. So here you're getting the maximum space for your garden bed by dividing it and zoning it out. And around the edges here, if it's too hot for you, you might want to plant or even put a shade cloth over it and, you know, cover your plants, especially in the deepest of in the midst of the heat. Right, so as you can see from that, that is pretty much how it's very basic, but how to bring in the 4 elements of it. If you do live in a fire prone area, this is a great way as well to think about how you're going to mulch your garden. Mulch is another real good way of doing things. If you're in a fire high risk area, then you probably want to use something like gravel or pea rock to help with keeping the moisture in the garden. I try my best to try and grow ground cover and natural stuff, because once you get the ground cover there, not only will it keep the ground cool, but it also retains the water and the ground underneath, because the ground, like real living ground cover, it forms its own mulch. So all the leaves that drop off that plant stays underneath there, and then you've got your own mulch, and then that in itself will keep a lot of the nutrients in. Otherwise, you can just go out to like Soils Out Soils or anything like that and get yourself some mulch if you choose, like wood chip or fine bark or anything like that. They usually have all these different types of mulch that you can put on your garden. Mulching in Australia is very, very important because it keeps the moisture into the ground. So when you water it, to help get through these horrible heat waves that we're having. So this is how I plan my garden. Now I have developed a workbook. So it's taken me a while to develop a workbook that I actually follow to a T. So you can design, if you want to, you can design your own way of developing a garden and have this workbook next to you and handy. Don't forget to diary as well. So write down as well what worked, what didn't work, what needs more water, what plants survived and what plants didn't survive during the summer and why. Like my gum tree for some reason died, but it's not for some reason actually. I think it had a fungus or an infection in its roots. So it didn't survive. Second one around, now I learnt. So I've learnt that, I've written in my diary and my workbook. And so I keep a plan of everything that I'm going to do. I do an overall plan of how my garden wants to look at. Now, obviously doing an overall plan, it's not always going to be what's the word I'm looking for? It's not always going to be to plan. Yeah, there's going to be changes. You're going to find some things work. You're going to find some things don't work. You're going to find that this ground has more, in my case, this ground has more lime rock, limestone in that area, you know, or it's more rocky in that area, or anything like that. So things change a little bit, right? So that's all good. But the main thing is what do you want to plant? Once you realize what you want to plant, how you're going to get the water there, how you're going to make your soil fantastic to be able to get those plants in, how you're going to plant them, in what kind of order, in like, does it need shade? Do you need to get a tree there? Whatever. And fourth one is mulch and aeration. Okay, so your plants need to be aerated. Now, hope you found that useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.